Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. And tonight I will be talking about the concept within the paranormal of walk ins. As always, you can find all the episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page. And that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to share those on the show, either by reading them or having you join me to talk about them. And thank you all for listening, as always. Whether you're here for the live stream, I see you there in the list there. Hello, Derek. And or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds. So now this topic, when I looked into it, I found a few articles, but a lot of them went into territories that I don't feel comfortable talking about because they deal with psychological disorders and or trauma, and that's not something I'm feel capable or I just don't feel right about covering those things because I don't really know much about any of those things. So hello APOC, I see you there in chat as well in the list there. So I'm just going to stick to the idea of this as much as I can anyway, as it relates to consciousness and energy and that transference. At one point I saw it commonly referred to as a transference of a soul. So that's another way to look at it. But yeah, so I don't have any articles to really share with you all today to help with this. This is just some observations from what I did find, and also some references to popular culture as well, which I found really amazing. Some of which we already covered a little bit in the Dark Tower series of novels. In that, the last couple books of that series, the idea of walk-ins came up, although not so much in the spiritual or metaphysical sense, more of in the form of actual physical beings that came through a portal that connected one world to another. Although I don't know why that couldn't happen in some cases. Of course, in excuse me, in King's stories, it was a lot more flashy, a lot more. There was like a storm going on at the portal that was featured in the Dark Tower series. But I also wonder if, in some cases, portals can't be a lot smaller and or more subtle to where beings just appear. So yeah, there's that aspect as well. Looking at the chat here, Derek says that Jordan Maxwell talks about Manly P. Hall being a walk-in, that he died temporarily as a baby, and an ascended master type entity walked into him, which is how he knew all of this occult knowledge at such a young age. And I wonder about that too, in cases where there are what are known as near death experiences that might have even been cases of actual death, and then when the person is revived, the soul that was in the person that died left, and some other spirit stepped in, or some other energy. And again, who knows where those come from? You would think they would have to be aware of what's going on. If they weren't, then they would be confused. And that is an aspect of some claims of walk-ins as well, where there's sort of those are the two extremes of it, where it's either what appears to be someone who knows more than maybe they should, or it seems like they should, about the supernatural, the paranormal, the occult, the metaphysical. And then there's the other end where when people are revived, they have they have little to no idea what's going on, and it's almost as if let's say a younger soul or younger spirit or more fresh energy and essence in a way has stepped into this body, and maybe it shouldn't have, or it was meant to enter the body of an infant, so that the growth would be of the physical would match that of the spiritual, or something along those lines. But in some cases, that's not what happens. I guess it all depends too on how much you want to how much you want to believe there is a control system, or there is a method to how these, or a system as to how these decisions are made as to who enters or re-enters or enters a body in this kind of situation. So, and you do seem to get those two extremes, and there's probably a whole middle area as well, where maybe those kinds of cases, when they happen, they're not as well known because it's just let's say, not that it's really I don't like the word, but average or some spirit that is almost at the same place in development as the one that stepped out. So, thank you all for being here. This is you all are helping me with this because I really didn't have a lot to go on here, except this one Wikipedia article here, and again, this is just an article. I'm using that as a summary, as a springboard to go to this topic. But so yeah, it mentions that there are people that believe in this concept. They say that this happens when, again, there's some kind of an accident or trauma where the spirit that is in the body at the time, for whatever reasons, steps out and a new one steps in. And of course, it goes into, some people believe that there's a this whole idea of a contract or an agreement system with spirits before they are born, regarding how long they stay, and what happens in their life. Again, I don't know about that. I don't know for sure if that's how it goes. I always feel like anything is possible, so maybe that's the case for some people, but not others. I have a hard time with set systems that are said to be the one way it is. So let's see here. Looking at more of this. Yeah, so there's not a ton more on the actual physical, the actual experiences there. Again, not without going into some of the psychological side factors of all that, but the other part of this that I found amazing was that this idea has been used in popular culture as well. Um, and I've heard of this happening in the X Files with different characters. There's another article, and now I can't find it, but it also mentions here there's a Twilight Zone episode where that was called "The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank, um, where it's a sort of a walk-in experience, um, even though the term is not used. And I think that is part of um, why it's there's not a ton on this, because it's sort of a you can take this into a lot of different directions. Maybe even some of what I read in some of the other articles that kind of go in directions I didn't care to. They did mention the possibility of people that say that they are channeling, that they channel other spirits, that those could also be considered a type of a walk-in experience. So I find that really amazing as well, and it just shows that I think there can be one term can be used to describe a lot of different things. Apparently, this idea has also been used in both Hawk Girl and Superman DC comics. It even mentions here, and Derek might know more about this than I do. This apparently in this Death of Superman story cycle, a handful of new heroes appear after the death of the main character, and it's thought that Lois Lane basically speculates that if Superman was really dead, maybe his soul could have uh, moved on and into another body, and is one of these heroes. So, oh, here we go. It mentions the X Files. It does mention it in this article. And they're described by Mulder in this series as this is more of the enlightened spirit or the ascended master kind of thing. So, and that's apparently referenced a couple times in that series. And it mentions a couple other ones here. Mentions it in Ghost Whisperer, which is interesting as well. That's another popular TV series. And again, it kind of there's another reference to an anime series that I'm not familiar with at all. But this article mentions the Dark Tower series, where, again, like I started the show with, these spirits don't come in through into already existing physical beings. They show up in other through portals, basically, and arrive in from one dimension to another. So let me see here. And let me see here. There's more here from Derek. He says it's weird how often contracts and legal documents and stuff pop up in the paranormal and metaphysical, like contracts with entities. Yes, true. Like the other side is run by some spiritual law firm. Yeah. Yes, channelers. Derek said that opens up the idea of alien walk-ins, definitely. But and the idea of channeling, basically people are inhabited by these other entities that maybe they're not spirits of people that have died here before. They are more spirits of other species that could be showing up to deliver messages. And of course, there's always plenty of debate about that, whether or not channeling is real. I think it should be a case by case basis. So let's see here. Oh wow. Let me see here. This Derek says that in the first season of Superman and Lois, it has the main character trying to use a machine to transfer the souls of dead Kryptonians into people of Earth. Wow, that's really amazing. Like a mass possession of Earth. Yeah. Yeah, so it seems like this idea is around um, in popular culture as well, and it can be either it's more commonly a metaphysical thing. It's a transferring of a consciousness into an already existing shell or form after an old one either leaves or agrees to cohabitate with this other presence as well. So yeah, this really gets into a lot of subjects here, a lot of possible angles, and yet it's really odd how little I was able to find on this when I looked into it. I wonder if it's because it can just branch out into so many things. You have to look into these specific things, as in channeling or into portals, or I wonder if it's just you can't just look at that term alone and find a lot on it without it getting into maybe um, skeptical debate or conversation about how maybe this is all in the minds of people, which I do think there are connections with the paranormal um and the mind, and the two can play off of each other and interact in different ways. And I'm definitely not discounting that. It's just not something I know enough about to really get into, I don't think. Um, but yeah, Derek says, yeah, the walk-in term has been used a lot with demon possession the last couple of years too. Okay. Um, and then trauma popping you out of your body so another entity can walk in. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it can lead to some dark stuff for sure. Um, and that I think that also plays into the whole skeptical side of the whole conversation there, where they'll say that people are thinking this is happening when really it's not. Which again, I don't like blanket statements at all anyway. So I think maybe that happens in some cases where it's purely within the person's mind, but then other cases where there's other forces at play, and or other beings uh, manipulating the situation. So, um, so yeah, but this was really fun to look into. Um, Even though it was odd the way, like I said, I didn't find a ton. Maybe I will. Maybe this will just be a good intro episode, or a starting point to look into other things like channeling, um, and or possession. Um, Maybe not necessarily the darker aspects of it, because I like to keep the show. The main point of the show is that the paranormal does not have to be negative. But we could still get into the idea of people sharing their consciousnesses and their bodies um with other beings. And yeah, reincarnation was linked in that article that I found as well. They mentioned that Derek mentions the Hawkeye Hawkman connection. Wrong comic universe. The Hawkman connection is interesting too because of that storyline is about reincarnation. Okay. So yeah, and also I just wanted to mention too, the original plan for this episode was going to be another look at another civilization and their beliefs in the afterlife, and how maybe those beliefs were based on real beings that they encountered. That series will continue. I just didn't get to it this month, and the beginning of this month was very it was rough in a few ways. So didn't get to that this month, and that's why I'm doing this episode today. But I'm glad that I did, because it was. I think it's it's an important thing to look into and talk about. And again, it seems to be a gateway to other topics that I could cover in future shows. So plans for the rest of the week are paranormal news tomorrow night, and then as long as I'm able, I will do a show on Friday, an extra show on Friday. True paranormal stories from the web to make up for the one I did not get to do on Sunday, and then we'll go from there. Also, I'd love to hear what you all would like to like me to cover on the Halloween episode. If there's a topic, or if you'd like to do another call-in show, or both. So yeah, I'd love to have ideas or hear ideas on what to do for that show. It's a weekday, so we can't do like a super long show, but I'd still like to do something special for that. It is, let me check right now. Derek is asking what night it is, and checking. It is on a Monday. Oh, there we go, Derek. Maybe we can do something that night. That could be fun. So yeah, maybe I'll have Derek on as a guest that night. No pressure, but he'd be welcome to come on the show with me. So, but yeah. So any ideas, any suggestions, I will take them, and then we'll see what we can do to make that a special show. So, I think that'll do it for today. Thank you all for listening, especially with this topic and the lack of source materials. I didn't have any links to share, but yeah, thank you all again for being here as always, and I will talk to you tomorrow night on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care, everyone.